Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome, Shrimp Tank Charleston fans. I'm Eric Elkins, host of the Shrimp Tank Charleston Show and founder of Double E Financial and Insurance Solutions. The Shrimp Tank Charleston Show allows us the opportunity to interview the brightest and best entrepreneurs and executives around. We get to learn their stories and how they became successful, as well as their ups and downs of their journey. We are a nationally syndicated podcast that can be heard on YouTube, Google, Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You can also listen and subscribe to our shows on our website, www.shrimptankpodcast.com/charleston.com. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram pages, so please follow us. All right, let's get into this. We have, I think, maybe the most entrepreneur guest of all time on the show today. And that is very hard for me to say because we've had some just enormous, tremendous guests to be on the show. But we are very grateful to have Pixie Dezzutti. Am I saying that right?
Dezzutti, yes.
Dezzutti. Because she's from Italy. Are you originally from Italy or you just are Italian?
No, I was born here. Yeah, my family's from Italy.
What part?
All over the place, from Puglia to Tuscany.
Calabria?
A lot of Calabria.
My
I actually
father-in-law.
just found out that.
Oh, really?
About the Calabria.
So you probably don't talk to the Sicilians.
I have Sicilian families too.
Yeah, I don't think the Calabrians and the Sicilians love each other, but I'm not positive about that. Are you in the mob?
I feel like that.
You might be because of all these different companies you have. So, as I was saying, we have Paula, but better known as Pixie Dezzutti, in the Shrimp Tank Charleston studios today. And very happy to have her because she is involved in 12 different companies.
I do have 12 corporations now.
Wow. That's amazing. So we're going to get into this. But first, I want to also say that this show does not run without our producer, Kristen Kilman, and our assistant editor, Henry Rickard, and my Ed McMahon, Gust of Just, who is also Double E Financial's Chief Investment Officer, who's here today as well. So thank you, Kristen, Henry, and Gus. Gus, good to see you.
Eric, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited because Pixie is the definition of success. And when we get into this, I want to get into your background, Pixie. But I first want to say that you have this spirits company known as the Striped Pig, but you have a variety of different spirits. This one that I'm holding in my hand is the Local Choice Lime Tequila with natural lime flavor, which I have not tried this one. I have tried your vodka, but I have not tried this. Is this new or has this been around?
It's been around a while. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It looks good, though.
It's really good. It's one of my favorites.
Okay. And then, Gus, show everyone what you're holding.
This is the striped bourbon whiskey, 2014 Pixie Paula, number 63. What does the 63 stand for on the bottle?
The barrel.
That's actually bottle number 63 out of our first Bottled in Bond event.
Sorry.
And 63 is my particular favorite number. Yeah.
Really?
We bottled out the first barrel of bourbon ever made in South Carolina under an NFT recently.
What does that mean? Explain that. What does that mean when you say that?
An NFT, which stands for non-fungible token, is a digital designation of what is referred to as a smart contract, a representation of ownership of an investment, just like in the financial world.
And that they accept cryptocurrency for payment, is that correct?
They do. We accepted both on this particular NFT launch, but most people will pay using cryptocurrencies.
Really? Mm-hmm. So you think the future, we're not that far away from, you think our currency is just going to go completely crypto or Bitcoin?
I think the way we manage finances will be completely digital. Right? So think about when we didn't used to take a picture of a check and deposit it into your bank account. You know, I don't even go to the bank. In fact, if I have a task that needs me to go to the bank, I will jump through hoops to move money from one account to another account to another account to avoid going to the bank. So if you think about that, that's all digital transactions, everything we're doing anyway. And it'll move into that space. And crypto is just a representation of digital transactions. And the same with NFTs.
All right. Well, I want to talk more about NFTs because that's a big thing for you. I'm assuming that's one of those 12 corporations that you have.
Yes. Last year me and my two partners founded Barrel Finance, and we were the first to take the $13 trillion alcohol industry to the blockchain on a 3.0 with the first ever
Really?
NFT in the spirit space.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
and we launched it. You talk about 63. That's numbers for me. That's like my favorite number. We launched it on 11/11. 111 bottles. So it's for me those numbers. In the numerology.
Why 63? Why is that your favorite number?
I was born on 6/3. I gave birth to 6 boys and 3 girls. 6/3, 63 comes up for me all of the time. If you add them together, it's 9. And actually 9 is the perfect number. It's the world perfect number. So everything in the way that we measure our world is based on digits of up to 9. And so it's considered from a numerology or astrology number place, like the ultimate number. So it's my number.
And you have 9 children.
I do.
So let's get into this because your story to me is pretty incredible, beyond how many corporations and things you're involved in. But take me back a little bit. Let's get a quick little history of your upbringing, where you're from, kind of your little, 1 through 21 years. What did that look like for you?
I was born into a traditional Catholic Italian family in Connecticut, and I had a pretty great childhood. I'll tell you something.
How many siblings?
1 sister, 1 brother. My sister and I are 11 months apart. I'm the eldest, and my brother is 7 years younger. And here's what was so great about my childhood. We were poor, but I thought I was the richest kid on the planet. And it wasn't until high school that I had an awakening that it was like, oh my God, we're poor. So can you imagine living that way? Living really poor, but feeling like you had it all. It's just a great thing.
I think. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: What did your parents do? What was their career?
My dad was orphaned and abandoned and went from one foster home to another until 6th grade, and he only had a 6th grade education. Ran away from home and used to live under the floorboards of stores where he'd come up at night to just go and to get food to keep himself and his brother alive.
Still alive? Is your father still alive?
He passed away early. And even with that lack of education, he was like the smartest man I ever met. And he went with that because he was such a hard worker, and he wanted so much to give my mother and my sister and my brother such a great life. He worked all the time, but he would work 3rd shift and take care of me and my sister, and then we would go off to school. He would go to sleep for a little while, be up to get us off the bus from school, do all kinds of activities with us, was very active in all of our activities, from sports to scouts to all kinds of things, bowling, and then cook. He was an amazing cook. And then go to work when I went to sleep. I just thought my dad was home all the time, but he worked even when I slept.
Really?
And so he would say, and my mom too, just reach for the stars. There isn't anything you can't do. I wrote an article once about it's not about what your parents say to you that's damaging. It's really what they don't say to you that makes the difference in, I believe, you being an entrepreneur or not. They didn't say, we don't have enough money. They didn't say, you can't do that. They didn't say, we don't do those things around here. They didn't say, you can't keep up with the Joneses. They didn't say all those negative things. And those were critical. So it's very important what you don't say as much as it is what you do say.
Our first nugget from Pixie right there.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Because you do see a lot of parents and adults or whoever who who have a tendency to bring people down, and even the ones that we're close to, but they don't think that they're bringing you down, but they do.
So I want to finish this. So even with that lack of education, he taught himself to be an amazing machinist. Worked for the Anaconda Brass Company, which was a big deal. The Waterbury, Connecticut went through the Great Flood in the 50s. He saved so many people in the flood. And then he went on to be a pretty big deal machinist at General Motors and retired early with a golden handshake at age 50 and got a great severance package and knew everyone in his family from what he could determine. And he never got to know his real father. He never knew the story because of, being orphaned. But he retired early, did well for his family, and passed away at only age 70. So still really, really young. And when we had his memorial service, I'm an ordained minister, so I don't believe in I don't practice going to look at the dead bodies, although I did when I was a kid, because I know that there's such a transition and a thin veil from this world to the next world that I don't acknowledge death at all. I only acknowledge transition. So we had a memorial service for him, and there were over 1,000 people there, and
Really?
everyone came up to me and said, "Oh my God, your dad was my best friend."
What was your dad's name?
Larry.
Larry.
And he used to go by Larry Austin.
He had to have a different name. real
Lawrence
life.
was his first. Lawrence, but Larry.
But he's Italian.
Yeah,
I mean, like, why doesn't he have like
no.
Vincenzo or something?
Oh, no, he wasn't Italian. So his last name, this is hilarious, was Rathkugel, right? We were told that he came from the von Rathkugels in Germany. So I had to go there. I went to school in Germany, had to understand all of this and get the experience. Then recently, my kids all did their 23andMe's, and they're like, "Mom, we're more Italian than you are. We're like third generation. You're like fourth generation Italian." I'm like, "That's not possible." So I go and I do my 23andMe. Turns out my father was Italian. His whole entire life, he apologized for me and my mother and sister and saying, "Oh, you have to excuse them. Forgive them. They're Italian. They're just Italian. They're just Italian." Because we had such passion. Turns out he was crazy Italian. So it's like, now I understand it.
Was your dad, and I want to, because there's so much I want to ask you, but was your dad a loving man? Because I think that's a pretty awesome gift that if he was, because
can you imagine
an orphan
having that many people say, "Your dad was my best friend"? And I thought, how is this even possible? How can you befriend so many people? When he retired and he took that golden handshake, and he knew he didn't have long to live. He was sick near the end of his life. He had to go to dialysis every day, which is like a bad experience, right? You have to go sit in a chair to stay alive for 4 hours a day. And he knew that once you start that dialysis process, you don't have a long time to live. So every day he knew his days were numbered. And you'd say, "How do you do that?" And he'd say, "It keeps me alive, right? It keeps me able to see you guys one more day." And as sick as he was, he volunteered for reading to kids at libraries. Now, this is the hilarious part. He'd never had, I told you, 6th grade education. He couldn't spell to save his life. And yet he would read children's books to kids. And this is how he taught himself to read, by volunteering to read to the kids at the public library. It was just amazing stuff.
do you think a lot of your work ethic and how you're trying to make so many different things, a success, do you correlate that because of your watching your dad?
I think so. Another inspirational thing he always did was he volunteered to deliver flowers for florists for free. He didn't get hired. Like he wanted to deliver flowers. He would not even accept tips. He just said, "I like seeing people smile. When you show up with flowers at their door, they smile." So those kinds of crazy things, I think, really inspired me to have an open heart. He showed love and not fear. As human beings, we get so afraid we get caught up in this insecurity of losing, right? And it's just an illusion that somehow there's not enough and we're going to lose. And so we get very protective. We have this self-sustaining, inbred, right, the ability to stay alive. He wasn't like that. And I think he taught me that from a young age, that there's just so much. There's more. He used to tell me that, the saying, money doesn't grow on trees? Which makes you be fearful, right? You have to be careful about there's not enough money. Well, I always thought he just had so much money because he would say, oh, more comes on Friday. More comes on Friday. So I thought it was like the stork, and they would just bring a bag of money every Friday. So I never worried. And we played this game as kids. My grandfather used to give us $1 every Saturday. Now, this is where my financial planning came in. At the end of the year, I'd have $52. My kids, my sister and brother would be like, they're down at the dime store. They're spending that. They're buying the penny candy. I saved up all my money. And so we would go downtown, and he would say, you know how you make that dollar turn into $2? And I'd say, how, Dad? And he'd say, you figure out how to give it away, because the more you give away, the more you get. So I started dividing my dollar into nickels so that I could figure out how to leverage giving away all these nickels, knowing that I was going to get more.
Your dad, Lawrence, sound like an amazing man.
Yep.
Guys, you're listening to the Shrimp Tank Charleston podcast. I'm Eric Elkins of Double E Financial, and we're sitting here speaking with Pixie Dezzutti. We need to take a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Attention. Do you own a whole life or universal life insurance policy? Were you told to expect a big tax-free nest egg at retirement, or that dividends will pay for the policy instead of you? Agents frequently sell products like this that are profitable for them, but not for you. Let Double E audit your policy at no cost. Call now to find out how Double E Insurance and Financial Solutions can help you. 843-936-6352. DoubleELLC.com. Securities offered through Fortune Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Elkins Financial, Double E LLC, and Fortune Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank Charleston. I'm your host, Eric Elkins. If you have enjoyed this episode, please take advantage of our other shows where we've interviewed successful entrepreneurs like Pixie. We're sitting here speaking with Pixie Dezzutti, who owns a bunch of different corporations, from Skirt Magazine, which I can't wait to talk about that because she acquired that back in 2018-19 timeframe. She owns the Striped Pig Distillery, and she has a whole bunch of things that she's involved in with hopefully we can get a little touch of that. But before we went to break, we were talking about how special your father was. I want to move on, but before we move on, I want to know about your mom, because your dad obviously had some phenomenal traits. Your mom's still alive?
Yes.
How old is your mom?
She's going to be 80 years old.
Oh, wow.
On Mother's Day. In fact, this is really interesting. One of my rye whiskeys is going to be 6 years old on Mom's 80th birthday. So I'm trying to figure out how to link all that together. That'll be another limited release launch of the one barrel of rye whiskey we have left at the Striped Pig Distillery.
So your mom, what was kind of, because your dad obviously had so much, I think it's crazy being an orphan and then at the same time being a loving person, but really never probably got a lot of that growing up himself. So
he didn't. He was fortunate enough to get to one home where they really loved him and taught him a lot of values, brought him to church. He became Catholic. Then he met my mom, and they had a great loving relationship. He was 4 years older than her. They started dating when she was 16. And of course, then it was, roller skating or hot dogs. And he just loved her so much because he craved that love. And so he gave that love. They had a beautiful relationship. They were married for 50 years when he passed away. And because of that, I always said when he passed that he gave my mom an amazing gift because he loved her so much and did everything for her. Cooking, cleaning, driving, he did so much. And was back then, being a full partner parent as a dad was a big deal, right? He was so active in our lives. But she learned at that point at a young age to be young as far as losing a spouse, to become so independent and to test her wings and to be able to travel with me. And we got to be so close. And I hope it's Mother's Day coming up. And I was just thinking about writing an article about how awesome it is right now for me to be in a position where there's 4 generations of us. My first children, we had 5 generations of our family. Now we have 4 generations. And I love that I have a mom, that I have children, and that I have children who have children. So it's putting me in this position to really reflect how I'm changing over the years. And it's helping me get this amazing understanding and closeness with my mom. And I hope that all people at some point in their life get to have that relationship with their mothers. It's just a beautiful thing. And she was so tight and convinced and committed to her religious values is verbatim by what they were taught. And now she's actually giving me dating advice. She's teaching me everything about cannabinoids and cannabis and medical marijuana. And she'll tell me all the time which of my tequilas are good and which of my bourbons are good. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my mother, my whole life, who I thought I can't
Go there.
I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything wrong. And I didn't, by the way. I was like the perfect child. Is now like encouraging me to be the queen of drugs and alcohol. It's like, and her dating advice and her sex advice, let me tell you, over the top.
We should have her on the show.
Yes, she's hilarious.
What's your mom's name?
Lorraine.
Lorraine, we're going to, I think we have an opening in September.
She's hilarious.
We're going to have Lorraine on the show. Hey, so let's fast forward because, this show is, we only have 60 minutes to get as much as I can out of you. You get married. How old are you when you get married?
I was young, under 20.
Okay. You go on to have 9 children.
Yes.
And I didn't believe, I thought you had to have adopted some. But then Gus told me that, no, you birthed these children.
I did.
All 9.
One at a time.
Who was the heaviest?
My biggest was 10 pounds, 28
Oh, my
inches.
God.
Yeah, he was the biggest baby in the hospital that year. That was Remy, my 4th.
And
Randy was close to 10 pounds. A couple of them were close to 10 pounds.
God.
Then a few in the 9 pounds.
Was that the basketball player?
They're all basketball players. They didn't have a choice.
Are your sons are all tall?
Yeah, they're all 6 feet tall.
Wow. And how tall are you?
Really?
Yeah. Well, I have a mom.
4'10"?
My mom's 4'10". So
I was 4'11".
Well, my mom says she's 4'11", but I think she's 4'10".
I'm 4'10" now, but I feel 6 feet tall.
I don't see height because, I had a mother who was 4'10". Well, she would say 4'11". She's 5'1" with heels, and my dad was only 5'8". So I'm not asking it in a derogatory sense. I get it. It's like I'm kind of having a conversation with my mother right now.
Yeah.
So
People say all the time, you're so short. I'm like, no, I'm fun size. And that's what I think about the little fun size candies. I'm
Was
the
your
fun
dad
size.
tall?
No. My parents were tiny. So it's bizarre that I have all these, tall kids. My girls are tall too. And their dad wasn't that tall either. My son-in-law is like 6'3", probably 6'4". I'm not sure. He's from Wales. And he'll say all the time, okay, you're really going to be getting my mother-in-law very angry. He said, you will not see her coming, but you will hear her. It's so funny. So you will hear her and you will be in trouble.
Well, so when you start having these kids, what are the ages? What's the oldest versus the youngest?
My youngest just turned 21, and she just had her first baby. And my eldest, do the math, is going to be 38.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so 17 years actually between them. I had 5 and 4 years, and then 4 and 6 years.
And then when you first have the first 4 or 5, do you have a company at the time?
Yes, I started my first business when I was 9 years old.
All right, so
Literally.
All right, so I want to hear about it, but I'm more interested in when you had these kids. What was the company? What was the
I was doing financial planning and real estate development.
Okay, so you got securities license and all this kind of stuff back then?
Yep.
And you're working full time?
Mm-hmm.
And what is your ex-husband doing? Is he working too?
At the time, on and off.
Like, how are you guys managing these kids?
I am a hustler.
Yeah.
I managed the kids. I didn't have any. People say, oh, you had help or your parents. My parents would come to every one of the games, but my parents were young. They were only 20 years older than me. So they were young. They were still living their life, doing their great things, and they were very active in everything. But they would come to every single one of the kids' sporting events. So that's how they supported. But from
Were you living here? Were you living in Charleston?
I was in Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah. I moved here like 15 years ago by way of Florida. And then my sister moved to Florida. And so that's what started me going back and forth to Florida. And I got into real estate at a very young age.
Real estate on a residential or commercial side?
Both. So I was flipping houses and then started doing golf courses, resorts, timeshares, water parks, things like that. And residential developments, small developments, like 30, 40 houses at a time.
And I know you got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids did you have? I guess you had all 9 kids, or is
No, yeah, I've been married a couple times, and my former husband kind of raised all of them with me. So I had a good support structure from him. He was a great partner, a great supporter. He was also in financial planning. We were a great team. We're still a great team.
he lives here too?
No, he lives in Connecticut.
Got it. And so when you are out on your own and you're doing the financial planning and you're doing real estate and you have all these kids, I mean, I want...
Kids in tow. You just put the kid... Look, I used to cram 5 kids in the back of a 4-seat car.
Yeah, I just don't... I mean,
I used to have a tiny little Mazda. And they got to the point they were so big, and they were like in the garage one day, and they were like, "Oh no, Mom, we're not getting in." And I was like, "Get in the car." They're like, "No, we're not getting in."
But you're taking them to basketball practice and going
Yes.
to games, and then
Yes.
you got to go back to the office and do
Yes.
work.
I mostly worked from home. You know, my first year in the financial planning arena is the only time that I actually worked in an office. Other than that, I worked from a home office.
How did you get clients back then?
Cold calling. Yeah.
Really?
First year, you used to come in, you could just sit in the phone lab and you should dial away, right? You know, dial
And
for
you
dollars.
can talk. You can talk. So
And trying to get them not to hang up and to
I'm
be
sure they
honest.
didn't.
They did. I was
what
like,
what do you
wait,
think
wait,
the
wait.
odds were back then? Like if you called 10 people, how many people would talk to you?
I would get in trouble all the time because I had a 100% closing ratio, and they'd say, "You're not calling enough people." They're like, "Nobody can have a 100% closing ratio." I said, "Why? I love the people." And I tell them I'm not interested in doing financial planning. I want to know who they are. People want to know how much you care, right, before they care how much you know. And I would go in and say, "Oh, these are all the things I should be telling you to do for financial planning, but I'm going to tell you, don't do any of them." So I had like good cop, bad cop going on. Even with my husband at the time, because we had a financial planning group practice together. It was an official division of American Express at the time. And we just hit it off. And he tells the story all the time. He said, your mom would go out and close everybody. And then I would just be there to back up, do the details, and get all the paperwork done.
So, okay, so then you go through this financial period as a
Still,
planner.
it never goes away, right?
Okay.
I'm a financial planner through and through.
So you still have clients that you still manage on a regular basis.
I still have clients that won't let me go, right? And you get so attached that even when you're trying to transition or you're out of time, I'm still trying to pull it together because they trust you and you know them better than anybody. And I have a lot of business clients, so it's complicated because I educate and I teach about juggling businesses, creating more than one business, leveraging businesses, moving nonprofits into your profits to get the advantages of cause marketing and being able to help and give back and do good while you're doing great. So it gets complicated in what I educate and what I teach.
Is that one of your corporations where you go to an organization and help them kind of run different companies and stuff? I mean, what is that one of the 12?
Yes.
All right, so tell me about that.
Because
a lot of people don't know. And the reason I want you to go into this is a lot of people love the idea when they see certain people and celebrities and entrepreneurs that are the Grant Cardones out there and the Ed Milets and all these guys that have 19 million companies. And so many people go, I just don't know how they do that and manage it. And you obviously have some success there. So tell us, like, if you came to me, I own 2 companies today, but hypothetically I want to get involved in 3 more companies. What would be quick cheat sheet that you would say, okay, Eric, this is what we need to do?
So for me, I always bring it back to being a human being first, right? We're people first, product second, process last. And if you have a good handle on who you are, people always say like, do what you love, follow your passion, just embrace your passion and the money will follow, all those, slogans and taglines. And for me, that's never been the case. I'm pretty passionate. Passion comes and goes and flares and wanes. Like it's hard. to keep it on point all the time. Some days you're just going to have bad days. Sometimes the barometric pressure just makes you less passionate. Sometimes you're just tired. For me, I discovered at a really young age the distinction between understanding what my purpose was. And so I ask people and guide them to saying, if you have not identified what your true purpose is, it's going to be hard to run numerous companies. If you know what your purpose is on the planet and you can stay really in touch with it, then everything is a vertical that can support what your core purpose is. And then it makes it easy to run because you're in your flow. You're just totally and aligned with your ultimate purpose.
So you're saying if you know your purpose, it doesn't really matter whether it's alcohol, whether it's a magazine, it doesn't matter. If you know your purpose, it all interlines together.
Yes. And so
what was your purpose?
Mine is unconditional love and possibility. And I know that. I know that about myself.
But what happens? I mean, like, I just don't understand that. I mean, I get it, but I want to know, like, you had some kind of epiphany that says, I'm going to be unconditional love.
Yeah. I called it out for myself when I was a young age, and I said, who I am on the planet is. I will come. In fact, when I read that old letter, so I wrote a letter to myself when I was like 16 years old.
I think this is a great idea.
It's a fabulous idea because energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? It simply transfers form. We manifest what we bring about, what we talk about. I always say, if you want to know what you're committed to in your life, look at your life. There's no one else in there driving the bus, right? And life doesn't fall out of the sky and land on your face. You manifested it. So if you want to know what you're committed to in your life, look at your life. It showed up just as you planned it. And if you get real with yourself and you're really honest, then you're going to know, I manifested that. Nobody else did this.
So
I did this.
When you wrote that letter, I'm just curious, and you still have the letter.
Yes, I have the letter. Who I am is. Who I am is. And you call it out, and you get real, because you're going to manifest that. There's no way around it.
That is gorgeous. Gorgeous. I love that.
So I wrote in there the most bizarre thing when I read it over and over again. It said, I will be known for my love one day. And here I am doing my spiritually speaking. I'm an ordained minister. I'm giving back through spirits. I say we're not selling spirits. We're selling inspiration and spirituality. And I said that. I said, I will create great spirits throughout the planet. And now when I look at it, it's hilarious. There's no way I could have known those puns at 16 years old, right? And now,
you had no clue you were going to
no
get in the
clue.
liquor business.
And I said that I would have a lot of kids. And it's not like, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to have 9 children and name them all with an R and a Y. That's also my kids are. Can I say their names?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the kids.
Robbie, Ryan, Randy, Ramey, Robin, Rachel, Rory, Riley, and Raya.
And
wow.
all of your kids work for you.
6 of them.
6 of the 9.
Yeah.
How is that? Because I worked with my father.
Yeah.
And we were best friends before we worked together. And we were still very close, even when we worked together. But it was very difficult because my dad always still looked at it as, I'm your dad. And not as much like, just do what I say because I'm your dad. And I get it because it never, I've worked with people who work with their parents, and they'll say, they won't say their parents' name. They won't say dad or mom. They'll say Pixie. Mm-hmm. And I used to be like, why are you calling her Pixie? That's your mom. Just call her mom. That's what I call my dad. It's dad. And maybe they were right because they were like, no, this is work. Like this is we differentiate it, and we didn't. So
sometimes they do that. So they'll call me Paula because it's Pixie Paula, right? My birth name is Paula, and so which means small spirited one, by the way. So my mother even knew. And that, to answer your question about the kids, yes, they'll say the same thing. Like, oh, they'll think that mom just wants us to do whatever she wants, and she'll ask the question enough ways until she gets the answer that she wants to hear. But again, another distinction, because I am so tuned into spirituality, I just think that they're souls that came in to teach me lessons, and I'm here to teach them lessons. And I do believe that we pick our parents and that we travel together in groups of souls as a soul family to really encourage each other and teach and learn lessons. So I can separate them being kids. It's very, 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 as you know, challenging to work with a family business. And to be able to build and promote me as their leader when they're really angry with me about something, or they're like, oh, mom, and rolling their eyes. And then to still have to go out and support me, that's challenging. And I feel sometimes that I don't get that. But what they don't realize is I'm just so delighted that they came on the planet that I just watch them and I let them learn. I cry a lot. My feelings get hurt. I'm a human being and I'm here to experience that emotion too.
I cannot. 9 kids. I mean, that's just
It's
so
a
many.
lot. You know, they say little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems.
And then you
that's so
got
true.
how many of them are married?
I don't know, 5. I have to do the math.
Okay, so then you got the
Oh, yeah, we have
spouses.
spouses.
Spouses get in people's ears,
Absolutely. And then grandchildren. There's 8 grandchildren now. So like altogether, there's like 28.
Okay, so the kids though work. If you wouldn't change anything,
I wouldn't.
you would always see. For me, Pixie, I don't because of my experience going from such a strong relationship. Let's just call it a 10 to dropping down to a 7, which is still great, or an 8, but I kind of go, I don't know if I want my kids to work with me because I get that fear that I don't want to drop my relationship to a 8. I want to see it a 10. But some people just handle it better. It sounds like you probably do.
Yeah. And I'd say they'd probably say it was a 4, honestly. So
At least you're honest.
no, they would say that, but I'm okay with that because again, I'm owning my role, unconditional love and possibility. So I'm going to take the tough parts and I'm going to do my role and I'm going to do it as perfectly as I can. They're on their own journeys. What they glean from me is up to them. Same thing. They have to own their own accountability. They won't admit that necessarily, but I try to create those boundaries so that I don't buy into it. And that's how I go on every day.
Well, I think it's great. And I also think for the kids that listen, Pixie's kids that are listening to this or who will listen to this, what at 20 and 30 years old, you really aren't, your mind's not mature yet, in my opinion. It starts to mature in your 40s, and you start realizing, wow, that was a good lesson my mom taught me or my dad taught me or whoever taught me. But you didn't get it in your 20s and 30s. But they think they're getting it. But
I agree with you. I know the magic moment for me was when I turned 40. And I had a complete new distinction. It was like an aha moment. And all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, my mom and my dad are doing their role for my growth perfectly. And they were perfect just the way they are, you know? So I hope that's why I keep going with my kids saying, I know that they're going to get to that someday. And this is for all kids. Your parents love you so much, you can't even believe it. Or, you know, if you think about it, I'm like, you're bringing through consciousness to another soul. Out of some crazy, miraculous birth process, you now birthed consciousness, and you could watch it in action. Like before that, there was no consciousness. All of a sudden, there's consciousness that you created. That flow through, for me, is just amazing.
are you like a psychic too? Like, do you have psychic abilities?
It's funny that you say that. So I used to have a company called Channel by Channel. And I do automatic writing. I started doing automatic writing at a very young age. I have volumes of legal pads where I go into meditation and I just get downloads from wherever that give me amazing, amazing nuggets, as you call them. And I'll discount them because sometimes I don't want to listen. You know, I'm a stubborn human. But it's pretty remarkable what you get. And we all have this ability, by the way. When you are tuned in, tapped in, and turned on, you can get so much information.
All right, so how are we on time, Kristen? What do we got? 44 minutes? Oh, my God. Why didn't you tell me we got to take a break? Guys, you're listening to the Shrimp Tank Charleston podcast. We're sitting here talking to Paula Pixie Dezzutti, who is the ultimate entrepreneur, and I'm getting some great nuggets, is like I like to say, from her, because she really is a special person. I'm grateful that we got to meet, especially today, and then to tell your story on the show. But We got to take a quick break. We got to hear from our sponsor, which is really just my company. We'll be right back.
If you're like most successful business executives, you would probably rather stick your arm in a bucket of snakes than formulate a strategy for your insurance and financial needs. Who even understands estate planning, 401k plans, or key men insurance? We do. We are Double E, your virtual Chief Insurance and Financial Officer. Let us free you up to do more of what you do best and less of what we do better. Call 843-936-6352. DoubleELLC.com. Securities offered through Fortune Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Elkins Financial, Double E LLC, and Fortune Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities.
Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into the Shrimp Tank Charleston. We're sitting here having a great conversation with Pixie Dezzutti in the Double E studios, and we could go on and on with you, Pixie, because you really have so many things, and you're involved in so many different things. I mean, you are Women of the Year for the Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, and you live in Charleston, but it sounds like you have all kinds of. You got a home in Atlanta. You're all over the place. You're like you're like involved with some reality show now or something. What's all that about?
Actually filmed on a few different shows, but we're filming our own reality show now.
So what is that?
We're
just following you around?
Just following me and the kids and dealing with the crazy stuff we do to
like the
launch these
Kardashians?
Well, so when you guys film this, do we get to see like the kids just yelling at you and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, they're sending over the trailer this week with the final edits, and it's being pitched to prime time right now, so I can't wait to see who's going to pick it up. But yeah, it's like the background stuff, just the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and it's really hard, especially being a woman in male-dominated industries, which I tend to have picked from, the time that I was on Wall Street. So you pick up these little nuggets, as you call them. Like, you get to just see things in action and what happens behind the scene. I mean, it takes a village, right? And they're all so sophisticated, the kids in their own right, and have become very specialized and expertise in one of the highest regulated industries on the planet, which is the beverage business.
All right, so let's talk about that. How do you start? What happens to start this transition into Striped Pig?
Yeah, so I was in real estate, as I mentioned, and working on a project that a partner put up some money to secure a global patent for the purification of alcohol. And I was invited to go and look at it as helping them move out of R&D and into manufacturing. And I'm listening to everything that was going on behind the scenes. And I stepped in, and I had done really well in real estate. In the crash of 2008, based on how I financed my properties, I did really well. So I had money when most people didn't. And I took advantage of the opportunity, but I more importantly fell in love with the inventor at the time, but the opportunity when I started studying the industry. I said, this is the only true asymmetrical investment in the marketplace that just your investment becomes more valuable if you don't sell the product. So I said, why am I ignoring this as a real asset class?
But you're not even a big drinker.
No, I'm not. My tagline on the reality show is, she drinks for a living, she just doesn't swallow. And I'm
you're single. I don't know if you should say that kind of stuff.
It's okay. I called my kids and I said, you got to move to Charleston. We're going to open a distillery. They're like, Mom, you don't drink. You put ice in your red wine. I go, I know. I'm like the least likely person to disrupt the alcohol industry. And yet we've done such amazing things in the space.
So you just get involved in the liquor business?
Yeah. So I make an investment. I write a check. I help take that company from struggling, like almost insolvency, into one of the best deals that I ever created in my life. And along the way,
so Striped Pig is already established.
No, that was another company. But that's how I got into the alcohol business and learned the industry. So I started studying the industry, and I became it was cutting edge technology company. This is prior to the iPhone being out, and I'm looking at this industry saying, hey, there's a real need here to bring together an influencer incubator accelerator program, because 99% of the brands that launch are going to fail. How do I create something that helps them be successful? And I'm thinking it from the investment perspective and keeps the investor's investment safe. And I said, if I could create a platform where everybody works together to co-brand and cross-promote, then they've got a chance. And there's not this replication or duplication of efforts that's just wasted. And people looked at me like I was crazy because, again, we didn't have influencer marketing. We didn't have affiliate branding. None of that occurred.
Which I want to point out. did my research a little bit on you, Pixie. You have 35,000 followers on Instagram, which is really incredible. I mean, I don't know how I don't know how these people just get that.
I have like 100,000 on like LinkedIn or some big number, and I have like a 30,000 waiting list on LinkedIn because they won't even let you accept people. I had to move it to just be a following page now.
Why? Like, I can't. No. Will someone follow me? I mean, no one will follow me.
Well,
I get like people from Shanghai following me.
Yeah, that happens.
I think
too.
I think I have prostitutes that ask to follow me. That's all I get.
Well, when you're doing industry stuff, I think those followers are coming from, look, this is one of the most lucrative industries on the planet. And so you've got big organizations like Diageo, Pernod Ricard, Beam Suntory, Constellation. They're looking for what's their next brand, who's their next, out there, what's their next highly visible brand. They call them rising spirits. And so I can click, I don't pay for the upgraded version. I need to do that now. So I can see where the followings are coming from, but I can't see necessarily, who particular it is. But
I'll buy friends. I don't even care.
It'll say
I'll
like
buy 'em.
Diageo or Constellate, and people who open my my posts and my activity posts. Anyway, so I got into really understanding the space behind the opportunity for this as an investment, and I couldn't deny those returns. Bourbon appreciates at 400% a year. You cannot deny these returns. So, but then I had a dream. I kid you not. I had a dream. My kids always say, "Mom, you can't use that line. It's been taken." I'm like, but I did. I had a dream. And in the dream, I was told to create local choice spirits and to leverage it and to build this and to give $2 a bottle back. Actually, in the dream, I heard $5 a bottle back.
But then you said that's just too much.
The distributors told me that. They said, you're going to go out of business. You can't do that. So we offered $2 a bottle back, and that became my Simp and Share loyalty program. So I'm now building brand loyalty by exchanging all the waste in exchange for brand loyalty, and I'm giving that money back to either nonprofits or community education programs. And so
awesome.
At the beginning, we called it the Pour It Forward model. And then all kinds of people came after me for using Pour It Forward from somebody.
That's so
I know,
ridiculous.
people get crazy, even though it's used everywhere. So I changed it to Sip and Share, and that's what we do. This past weekend, I think we raised close to $20,000 for our Tri-County veterans. Wow. I formed the American Comedy Guild with a friend last year, and she launched the Best Medicine Brigade. And we had 5 comics from across the U.S. representing every branch of the armed services come to the Distillery.
Did you have Gus?
Are you a stand-up comic?
He just has good hair.
Oh my
He
gosh,
just
you
has
got
good
to come.
hair.
So
That's it. He's not
the
that funny.
14th, every second
I'm not.
Thursday.
He's not a
of
comedian.
the
I'm
month.
just
Well,
teasing.
come over to the Distillery and stand up and do your comic routine. Anyway, so we put this whole thing together. We had like 150 people show up. It was so moving to see all these volunteers from all over, from Seacoast, from the church, from every branch of the military to set up the Distillery. And then we had a kick-ass show on Saturday night. It was hilarious. That's giving back. That's giving real meaning to
That's
let's
unconditional
drink
love.
responsibly, right? It's not don't drink a lot, get drunk, get in a car, kill somebody. That's just common sense. Giving a real meaning to drink responsibly, or an additional meaning to drink responsibly.
So when you get into, Stripe Pig was not an acquisition. You just started Stripe Pig.
No, it was an acquisition. So in the dream, I was told to call it Local Choice Spirits and do the Local Choice platform. So I launched Local Choice Spirits. I started building brands, high visibility brands, a lot of celebrity stuff. And I realized I'm really good at this. And when I analyzed the numbers,
When you say celebrity stuff, you got them involved in the investment?
Yeah, like Tiny's and T.I. was, I don't do licensing deals, and I don't do royalties. I bring on full-on partnerships. So I had Tiny, T.I., Hatfield McCoy's, Richard Rollins, Gas Monkey, Cinnamon Tequila. I have Tyler Boone, Fleetwood Mac I just signed. I'm working on a group from the band. I forget. Driving and Crying I've worked with, Dance Gavin Dance, the Braxtons, Dwight Eubanks. I know I'm forgetting somebody. I should have written them down.
Oh.
But I've worked with like Mariah and Lil Wayne and people that just came together to endorse some of the brands that we've built over the years.
So, okay, so then you you start Local Choice.
Yeah. So I built the brands that I'm like, oh, this model actually works. And then back out to the industry, if you look at your exit strategy, right? So we're talking about financial planning all the time. I'm not doing this. I am doing this to change the world and to do measurable impact. Why? Because I know my purpose, unconditional love and possibility. So I'm following that space. And I'm doing it resourcefully in the most lucrative industry on the planet. I used to feel all the time, even in financial planning, that I would work with what we call in the industry, accumulators, not people who are already wealthy. And it's a slow grind trying to help them get there because they're the underdogs, right? They're working really hard. They don't have a lot of money. And it's the same in what I picked in the model here. It's like, I want to help the guy that is, and by guy, I mean guy and girl, And I want to help the person that really doesn't have it all together, doesn't have the millions of dollars of investors, but has such a passion to get into the space and wants to be able to share their vision and their mission. So that's what Local Choice is really about, giving them a platform to be able to play in that playground without having to have the millions of dollars that are necessary to launch the space.
If I want to start my own vodka, hypothetically, I could come to you
Yes. Yep.
and say, here's my idea. This is what I want. And you'd say, okay, we'll partner up on this.
Yes. So the celebrities, and it's not, here's my filter. And this is not just for celebrities, it's centers of influence or everybody. If I say, okay, if I build a brand with you and I take my 15 years of experience in this space or 30 years of experience in business and say maybe 45 years of experience in business.
No. What are you, 36, 37?
Yeah, whatever. I'm just saying, when you started your first business at 9, I was self-taught, but I figured it out. If I said, what do you think your brand's going to be worth? Are you going to be like a Clooney $1 billion brand? Or are you going to be a Skinny Girl $64 million brand? Like, where are you gonna fall? And if they say, oh, I'm going to be a $100 million brand, I go, excellent. Then what would you give me to get that $100 million brand? And if they say, oh, I'm not giving you anything, I'm not putting anything in, I'm not like, okay, well, if you won't invest in you, why would you expect me to invest in you? And that's how I filter which celebrities or partners that I want to bring on, because it's too much work. And my kids are overworked. We really are at maximum capacity because I've tried to keep it just a family-run brand where we own our company. We own the space. So then I wanted to look at the exit strategy. That's always important, right? Everything should have a destination tag on it, and you should know what your end game is so that you can manifest and work towards that space. And again, that's how you can do multiple companies, because you could bring in the things that support you getting to your exit strategy. In financial planning, we used to say, it's not about accumulating the money or putting the money away. Actually, none of that matters. I used to always go to, it's on the day you write the check and where you're pulling it from that matters. And that's how you determine if you did well or not well. And along the way, you're going to have a lot of bumpy rides, right? Ups and downs in the volatility in the market. So if you think about exit strategy, you can bring in all the peripherals that are going to help support your grand exit. And that's how I decide which businesses help fit the verticals for what I'm doing. So I then looked at the fact that brands that did not have dog and pony shows were selling at a multiple of 200 times revenue. Slap a distillery into the space and it jumps to 2,000 times. So I said, I have to have a dog and pony show. I don't want to just be a rectifier and a brand builder. I want to actually be in the space. And that's when I discovered Striped Pig. And that was back 2017-18, and fell in love with that team, and then slowly worked to acquire them and help them grow.
So when you took over Striped Pig, how many stores and throughout the country, what was their market share then versus what it is now?
Yeah, they were really tiny. They were just a local company. I won't say that they were hobbyists. They worked really hard, but it was the hobby that they loved. They hadn't really thought about doing what I was doing with Local Choice, so it was really a great merger. And now it's huge. I mean, we have representation in almost every state. We have 50 brands, 50 SKUs in the marketplace. We've won
all made in Charleston too.
Mm-hmm. Over 200 brands awards, beating the market leaders across the board in all categories of spirits. Some products we will source some products that we need to for blending or accelerating. We're doing because we can't meet our demands because we're so small. But that's why it's so premium to have things like this that come out of a bottle that was made, right in Charleston. They're limited editions and they're really, really good.
Well, let's really see if this is good, because I'm a vodka guy and a bourbon guy. So
remember I said 50 SKUs? I'm like, we have
Can I-
vodka,
can I
rum,
open
gins.
this?
Yes, you can. That's a watermelon vodka.
Okay,
Do you like
so-
watermelon?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And so I'm gonna do a taste test of what bourbon do you want? Because I see you have multiple.
You're not having this, just so you know.
Oh, I'm not.
Nope.
Because
It's
that's the
sacred.
63.
Yeah,
It's a 63.
and there's a method to my madness. You have to come to the distillery and try all the bourbons.
Okay.
We have a black cherry bourbon, a vanilla pecan, southern pecan bourbon.
Does it
with
matter?
lep-
Does it matter like where you are in the world, where you're making it? Like, does it really matter to make bourbon in Kentucky? Because is there
just
something better
it's
there?
a misnomer that the bourbon comes from Kentucky. But the definition of bourbon under the whiskey classification is that it's a minimum of 51% corn and put into a charred oak container, not even barrel, and nothing to do with age. So as long as you meet those two classifications, you can title it a bourbon if you like to.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to do a taste test of the Striped Pig watermelon flavored vodka. We have Pixie, who's even signed this bottle here. I'm going to try this. You're okay if I don't like it.
It's all subjective.
Okay. Because, I mean, people around the world are going to see this. I don't want to
Yeah.
mess up the
It's all
brand. I
subject-
mean, your 2,000
trust
multiple might go down to like a 2 multiple.
No.
Okay. All right, here we
No.
go. Here we go, guys.
There's enough awards. Oh, look at him throw that back.
Oh, my God.
How
I
is
swear
it?
to God.
Is it good?
It is ridiculous. I swear to God. I swear to God on my kid's life, I am not lying.
He's serious.
This
No, I-
watermelon flavored vodka, I don't need anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
I can drink that with ice and call it a day.
Yes.
Wow.
People say all the time, what do you mix it with? I said, it mixes well with a straw. We try to make all our products that. They're like, oh, are you making ready drinks? Yes, I make every single one of them ready to drink.
All right. I'm going to now try the tequila, local choice, ultra premium select, local choice lime tequila.
Yes.
I'm not a huge tequila guy. This is a Blanco.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So tequila is geographically protected. It has to come from Jalisco, Mexico. We're an importer of record, and when it comes here, we flavor it here. So this is truly this one is a mixto, and it's pretty remarkable. But
Okay.
again,
Well, you only sip.
I'm not. Yeah,
You don't-
I can talk a really big game, but it's better coming from you.
Actually, I need to use a different cup.
Yeah, I noticed The Rock. The Rock comes out. He came out with the tequila Terravana, and a lot of the celebrities would go in the tequila route,
Yeah.
right?
Our Gas Monkey cinnamon tequila we did, and that was to offset the fireball. And I was like, I'm going to make a grown-up cinnamon.
Are you
tequila
friends with the
instead.
guys from Fireball? Or is that the Firefly? Excuse me. Are you friends with the Firefly
Mm-hmm.
people?
Yeah, we have the South Carolina Distillers Guild. So I
All
think
right,
people
let
in
me
this
let me
industry
promote
are
let me
pretty
promote
friendly.
this. So
Okay.
I'm about to try the Ultra Choice Premium Select Local Choice Lime Tequila.
Yeah.
The watermelon, I don't know if this can beat it, but I'm a vodka fan. I'm okay with tequila. So if I think this is good, then it must be really good. Damn. I don't even like tequila. And that's I mean, it's not as good as that, but that's because my palate likes that more. But that's really good too. I swear to God. Again, on my kids, I promise I'm not BSing anyone here. I don't need to be drunk because we're doing another show.
That makes a
okay.
great margarita for sure.
All right, so
You
this.
guys are definitely trying the doppio espresso vodka though.
Okay, well, we'll do that next.
It's Italian.
All right, so this company is running very smooth and just growing.
Mm-hmm.
But local choice is different than Striped Pig.
Well, Local Choice is my actual company.
Okay.
That's the company name. And then under Local Choice, every one of these has a label. And the Striped Pig, which has a geographical designation, right, in North Charleston on Old School Drive.
I know where it is.
Right
my
behind
kids,
Deval
my
Catering.
kids play basketball.
Oh, yes. So
At,
that's how we pivoted.
Wesley
we,
Horn.
We put the basketball court up because that whole building, right, was our event center. And now when COVID happened, we couldn't do events. So Wes said, let's put up a basketball court. And because my kids all, are big, huge basketball aficionados, they were like, yes, we're going to do basketball. So we put up that regulation court, and it was one of the greatest things, besides making our hand sanitizer for the first responders and creating a place for those kids to play, because anybody in training got shut down from everything.
I know. Both my boys, 13 and 15, Owen and Alec, plays AAU for Dynamic Sports, which is the team. Nick Kinzel and Chris Evans are the coaches. But enough about my kids. This is about you. Okay, so we got to keep going here. I love the alcohol.
Think of local choice like General Motors, right? General Motors has the big company, but under General Motors,
no Saturns though.
under GM, you've got Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, Buick.
This is Cadillac.
And it's
this
the
is
same
Cadillac.
Thing. You've got so that's all my labels, but we're all under one company called Local Choice.
Okay, I love it. All right, now.
Because again, back then, nobody was talking buy local, support local. In the dream, call it the Local Choice. And you can see like the little emblem, especially on the front. It's like it's an award winner, right? Like the Local Choice symbol is like getting an award. It's a trust mark or a trademark.
I love both of.
See this? Look.
Oh yes.
Nice.
Yes, and your alcohol has won a bunch of awards. I saw one of your bourbons won the Platinum Award, and it goes on and on and on.
Yes.
And I love the striped pig. I think that's such a cool label.
Do you know the history of the striped pig?
No, but we don't have time to talk about it.
Oh, really?
No, I got to talk about skirt.
Okay.
I got to get into skirt
Well, you
because
need to look up the reference to history for the striped pig in U.S. history, because it's a reference to Prohibition and temperance and the 15-Gallon Act. Okay, there, we just talked about it.
Okay, so I mean, there's so many different ones, and I would never buy any of this stuff. Like, I wouldn't even buy this. But now that I've tried it and had it straight, and it tastes that good, and I really like that, and I don't even drink tequila. So
I'm
I
a
really
bit competitive.
Yeah,
I
well,
love it when
you're
people
doing well.
say, I will never drink
listen,
that. I'm like, I'll make it so you can drink it.
What people don't know, before the show started, you would have thought we worked for Pixie before the show, because Pixie was like, you need the camera angle this way, you need it. She is a perfectionist, and she did it with her alcohol. Okay, now this is a machine, and potentially this could get acquired for 5,000% EBITDA or whatever you get.
I like that number.
Then you decided to buy Skirt, the magazine,
Yes.
in 2018/19 when it all closed. Why?
I
did you
came
do
in
that?
as an investor because I absolutely loved the magazine. And then, we were going through some tough times, and in the struggles.
I want to highlight this.
Yeah.
I know we're clogging up this table, but
The opportunities came up for acquisition, and I was definitely not going to let this magazine die.
and I always find this interesting. How did you know that this was up for acquisition?
I had gone to a fundraising event with the previous owner who was looking for help for supporting the magazine. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to help. And then I just got actively involved. And so I became the founding investor, and then never really planned on becoming an editor-in-chief or moving into the publishing space, just looking at as an investor space. But then, with everything that happened in the world, which was changing quickly and significantly, I had to step into the place, and I was happy to do it. It was a struggle in the transition year, and then COVID hit. So we had to, if you remember in the old days, this magazine used to be like a long paper edition, and then we moved it into this high quality, really beautiful glossy.
Yeah. You're
just-
right. I remember seeing it. It was not like this.
Yeah, this is, I think, some of the best work that's out in the marketplace. Then COVID hit. So we are...
And you've made it a monetary investment prior to COVID.
Correct. Yes.
So you're like, what the hell have I done?
I got it. Exactly. And even now, the cost of paper, printing, everything has gone crazy. The supply chains are all interrupted, even with glass. I mean, it's just been a nightmare since COVID hit. So we all had to really, I don't like to say the word pivot because it wasn't a pivot. It's a rebirthing and a transition. But again, remember, what's my purpose on the planet? Unconditional love and possibility.
I love that you keep bringing it up because I think it's so important, and so many people don't know what their purpose is, and they keep going after something that, but they don't know what they're really going after. But go ahead.
It also keeps you in alignment and gives you the strength. Like I said, remember when I said before, passion comes and goes and flares and wanes. You don't have to recreate your purpose. You may rediscover your purpose, but your purpose never leaves you. So it doesn't matter what the job is or anything on the external that's happening, what your finances look like, who's mad at you, who's not talking to you, what your family is, what your financial status is. None of that matters. Your purpose never leaves. So just staying in that space, I was like, okay, my purpose is to show love through this magazine. We now can't print this magazine. We're not going out anywhere. Nobody's investing in promoting small businesses or little restaurants around town. What do? So we pivoted to digital, and we became just still that interaction. We're holding the space, and I have been holding the space. And now I'm like, okay, I think we're through this enough where I hear enough women saying, we want skirt night out. We want skirt to skirt. We want under the skirt. We want don't skirt the issue. So we're back to being able to function again, and we're transitioning into skirt podcast and skirt night out again. So we're trying to do a financial event, networking event for skirt to skirt. I formed another company called Skirt Smarts. Instead of street smarts, with skirt smarts, we can start talking about the financials to get women up and running, to know the differences between a C corporation and an LLC and how they should structure their tax returns. What things do they need to know to look after? Because just going to the professionals when it's too late can cost them a lot of money, and you can't go backwards in time. If we can get them educated to look at the things that need to look for in advance, and to set up their structures appropriately in alignment with their exit, then we'll save them so much money and keep them guided and manage the ups and downs of entrepreneurialism.
And so does this, I guess when you have any kind of future event, you can easily offer your alcohol, which it just kind of threads together.
Yeah. Well, the whole, that sip and share thing, it's like behind any gala or these events that we go to, there's usually a bar, right? So now the bar can be leveraged to provide ongoing funding mechanisms.
Because you're giving, and you're giving money away.
Yeah, exactly. To support all of these businesses and work together.
Which is beautiful.
You know, somebody else did this before me.
A woman or a man?
He was a man. Back at the Feast of Canaan.
Oh. Now we're getting into religious stuff.
But I'm saying, talk about the greatest story ever told. Somebody turned water into wine and created a huge celebration.
And this is the new generation of it right here. Seriously, you have been an incredible person. I have to go, but we have to stop. I would talk to you more, but I can't. I'm sorry.
We could spend all day with you.
We could do a sequel, but we have other shows coming up. But let me ask you a question. You're on this dating service thing. I don't even know how you could have a companion with the amount of stuff you're involved in. I mean, I would be intimidated by all the things that you're involved in because you're just a go-getter. But I want to know, you're involved with the matchmaker from Bravo.
Yes.
You know her.
Yes. And we have a couple of local matchmakers, too, that are professional matchmakers.
Okay. And how many dates a year do you get?
So
don't you have to pay like $20,000 up front or something?
It is a lot of money because it's not really, they don't call it a dating service. They're matchmakers, right? So they're out there filtering for you, like job interviews, right? They're like headhunters.
Right. But how long have you been doing this?
Too long.
Well, but you're still single.
I know. They keep saying when we find God, we're going to definitely hook you up.
I don't think this is going to get a return. This
criteria.
Is like probably the worst return on your investment.
It's the worst return. Actually, they need me though. Every time I go, I'm going to quit or I wanted my money back. They're like, no,
don't because we need you 20,000 again.
Yeah, no. I never had to pay again. They do need quality women to be able to introduce to high quality men, right? They're a certain echelon of clientele. So at least.
Okay, so give me an example. If you had to say let's go with before COVID type deal. How many dates did you or match makes did you have?
I'm not going to lie to you. I keep complaining. Like less than 3 a year. It takes forever.
This is the worst.
It's the worst.
Because they're like, I can't find the right
They're like,
person.
"You can't." But they're like, we're not a dating service. We're a matchmaker. We're Fiddler on the Roof. We're finding
It's a
the
total
right guy for
racket.
you.
It's a racket so far to me. But let
No.
me ask you this: these 3 guys you went out with.
I said I average about 3 a year.
Okay,
I
what were
think
they?
So
what
far,
are they?
maybe like 12
Af-
altogether.
All right, so you go to dinner. Mm-hmm. Is it here or do you go?
Oh, sometimes really great places.
Okay.
Like Guatemala. I went to Guatemala.
Okay.
Like
you
that
get
was really great.
You go to Guatemala.
Yeah.
And you meet this gentleman for the very first time in Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't.
No, we like talked a lot. You know, there's
do
digital,
you-
Zoom and
Okay.
FaceTime, right? You
But
get to know somebody.
Do you have your own room and this guy has his own room?
At that point, yeah.
Okay, so you go on. How does it work? Where do you end up going? I'm having fun having dinner with this gentleman, or do you go? Oh, this guy's just not.
That it is a risk if you do something like that where you're going to stay in the same location. But I'm such a people person, and remember, I go back to my purpose. I'm about unconditional love, so I'm not trying to get anything more out of an interaction with another human being than showing up and giving and providing love. Not, I don't mean even physically, right? I mean just being there, and so it makes it easy because I don't have any expectations. I'm just like there in the moment.
But
I'm always
they do.
hopeful.
These
I'm
guys
always
do.
hopeful. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I find we're older now, you know. They might have hopes and excitement, but I don't think I've never felt like any pressure at all, ever. I've never felt uncomfortable or any kind of pressure from any guy. I also don't have very many second dates, just so you know.
But that's because of you, probably.
Oh yeah, I drink my black cherry bourbon on the way out to the date so I can get ready, and then I come home and I suck down my lime tequila when I'm watching Netflix and crying. I'm being facetious. You know, I'm not a big drinker.
Yeah. I think we should just do a show on your love life.
I think we need to do this.
We should. We'll do the sequel.
It's a new company that I'm opening now.
What is
I'm
that?
working on
Tell what else do you want to plug? Because everything that you touch, I feel like is a diamond.
Well, Pixie Records and Studios, we are working on a matchmaking event kind of thing. I'm just stay tuned. It's coming. It's coming very soon. But Sycamore Biopharma, it is the leading, and it'll be a world leader in cannabis-related technology-driven wellness. My partner is the research department of MUSC, and what we're doing to uncover the cures for so many diseases is just crazy. So just like in the spirit space, was like I could not deny the returns on that investment. When I've been studying cannabinoid therapies, I'm like, I cannot deny the research on the cures for disease that are coming out of extracting these natural pharmacology plants that we are not educated about. I mean, I used to just deter from the industry because I always thought, oh, anybody, they're doing drugs, they're smoking weed, they're blah, blah, blah. But when you get into the wellness part of it and you start understanding, 42 patents or more in the space. So I'm so excited about Sycamore Biopharma.
How long do you think it? I mean, because we still got to get it approved in this.
It'll be done by the end of this year from a
Medical
marijuana perspective. Oh yeah, we're all lobbying so hard. It will be done. This
Guys.
is not new to me though. I got alcohol count changed on numerous counts. We will get this changed. Thanks to Mom educating me about drugs and alcohol.
All right, let me ask you one last thing, and then we're closing up. Unless you have anything that you want to end with. I was in Toronto about 5 years ago, and I was on the elevator with this guy who looked like a celebrity. He was probably 6'3", 6'4", and he just looked like he was someone. And he was holding a bottle of bourbon in his hand. And I said, hey, let me ask you a question. What's that bourbon you're holding? And he said, it's called Duke. And I own this with my partner, who is John Wayne's son, Mike. I think it's Mike Wayne. And he goes, where are you from? And I go, I'm from Charleston. He goes, you know what? We make this bourbon in Charleston.
That's correct.
So
My company makes that product.
Okay, so what was that guy's name? It's not the Wayne.
I don't know who it was.
He's from Miami.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it says it's made in Charleston or Owensboro, Kentucky, it's one of mine.
Really? It's called the Duke. So you don't even know.
Great name.
Like you just know that y'all make it.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know the group. So a lot of if they're coming through local choice and I'm directly dealing with those celebrities, then I know them. But we do so much in Kentucky too.
Okay, got it.
We make good products.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been sitting here talking to Paula Pixie Dezzutti, owner of Local Choice, which is the parent, better known as General Motors. And then underneath that are a whole bunch of different brands. And then she has Skirt Magazine, which she is taking Skirt Magazine and making it the new focused digital magazine of the world. And then not on top of it, she's giving all this money away. She's not just hoarding all her money. She's giving it away because that's part of her purpose. And so I want to say first, I'm so grateful that you came on. You did a fantastic job. You told great stories. You went over the hour, but you won't be punished for it because you deserve it. And I'd love to have you back. I'm going to take whatever you're willing to give. I'm not going to give it to any of these folks in here. I have a very extensive bar at home, so I'm going to put it up in my bar. And the watermelon was ridiculous. So was the tequila.
And you didn't try that Doppio, even though I said you have to.
I will. I'll do that. I'll give you props on the next show because we'll try it after this. Guys, you're listening to the Shrimp Tank Charleston podcast. We sat here and had a phenomenal conversation with the probably going to get voted Entrepreneur of the Year, at least for the Shrimp Tank Charleston show for 2022. I don't know who's going to top you, but I appreciate you coming. If you want to listen to other shows or watch the video portion of this show, please take advantage of YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. You just need to type in The Shrimp Tank Charleston, 4 words, not 3. The Shrimp Tank Charleston. You can also listen to the audio portion on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. And I'd love for you guys to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram since no one's willing to follow me. But just consider me, double E. Lastly, I'm Eric Elkins. If you think or you know of someone that is an entrepreneur or someone making an impact in our world, then please contact our producer, Kristen Kilman, at 843-936-6353. I'll repeat, 843-936-6353. Or go to our website, www.shrimptankpodcast.com/Charleston, and apply to be on the show. Everyone, thank you so much. Gus, thank you so much.
Eric, thank you. Pixie, it was awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for allowing me to be here and share with you.
Thank you all, and keep at it.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp